Okay, so at this point, so you went, your first assignment was in Ashland, Oregon, and then you said you had one on the coast. Was Chico
Yes.
your third assignment? So you had been traveling for a little bit at that point?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you got her as a puppy, and I
Yes.
just had my first puppy experience last year. I got my COVID puppy, and
Yep.
they're a lot of work. And
They
so
are. Yes.
would you suggest, I guess, for somebody else that's interested in traveling with a dog that maybe doesn't already have a dog to maybe like start the whole traveling thing first and then get a dog? Or would you,
Yes.
looking back, prefer to have started with the dog?
So I think it probably would have depended on how long I had Zoe, like before traveling. Like I wouldn't recommend getting a puppy and then being like, all right, I'm going to go out and travel. And because now you have so many new experiences at the same time, I think that would have just been overwhelming.
Okay.
But if I would have had Zoe for a while, I think it would have made it a little bit easier. Because, I mean, part of having her as a puppy is like all the training and things like that. And so, like, if you went on your first assignment in a new city, like, not knowing anything, I think it would just make it really challenging to kind of do that all at the same time. But I think it was definitely helpful that I had already been traveling a little bit, so I kind of knew some of the things that I had to be aware of when I got her that I might not have known otherwise. So
well, especially if you lived with people that were going through the same experiences, you probably got to kind of like learn some of the pits and or the pitfalls of that or the peaks of that, right? Like how great it is, but it's also challenging, right? So was there any like specific challenges that you had with getting Zoe? Like you've seen the experience with the puppy, you know what you're getting into, but then you actually bring a puppy home and then you actually drive, to Texas, right? Like, how does that work with her being little and like, could she make it the whole day while you were at work? To not go to the bathroom, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So when I was in Texas, the nice thing about that was I was only 15 minutes from my facility. And also the place that I was staying was a house on a farm. So even one of the things that I didn't have to worry about was like if I was staying in an apartment with her barking or anything like that, because there was literally nothing around us. So she was in the house by herself. She could bark to her heart's desire if she wanted to. So I didn't have to worry about that. And then also, I had her in a pen in the kitchen with like a tarp down underneath it, which is a trick that I learned from one of the other therapists that I was living with who had the puppy. So I could go home because I was only 15 minutes away. I could go home at lunch and then let her out. So I spent like an hour with her at lunch and then would go back to work and then come home at night and then spend the rest of the time with her. So I did leave her at home for that time period. For the assignment after that, I was in an RV and we were 45 minutes from work. So for that assignment, I had her in daycare for that one. So.
Okay. And then what was it like, I guess, having her, was it more challenging with potty training and stuff? Like having her there and she was out you said that she was in a open pen area and then you had it covered underneath. When she was out like that, do you think that made it more challenging with some of the potty training stuff, or did it work out just like it would, if you hadn't been traveling?
Yeah. So, I think that it probably would have been better if I would have been able to be home with her. A lot of times, especially with like crate training and things like that, it makes potty training a little bit easier. So, and because she was in the pen, it definitely wasn't forcing her to like have to hold it as much. So I do think that if I would have crate trained her versus having the pen, it probably would have been a little easier. But I also do think just her breed in general picks up on things pretty easily, like pretty fast. So I think that was helpful because I don't know if it would have gone the same way with some of the other breeds.
So as far as like the road trip part going from California to Texas too, was that challenging? Did you have to stop a lot? Like just with
we
a brand new
stopped
puppy?
every hour. I think I stopped for
Oh my gosh.
2,000 miles. So definitely put a couple more hours on the trip, and I probably wouldn't recommend that.
Oh my God. What a fun memory though with you guys. Like that you got to do that when you first brought her home. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. And she was such a trooper. I think one of my biggest recommendations is just the treats. Like every time, like when she was quiet, I would put a treat in her pen, like in her, because she was in her crate the whole time that we were driving. So I would put treats in her crate to just let her know that she was doing a good job. So
What a good mom. I love it.